So we've been doing periodic updates, and appreciate Tom's comments earlier about travel and tourism. Part of my comments tonight will address some local travel and tourism, and in some ways, I guess, the lack thereof, at least for a period of time as we have known it. A lot has occurred over the last 6 months. And a lot of work has gone on, and there is a lot of work left to do. Our staff has been working pretty much around the clock to try to restore a lot of our facilities, a lot of our parks, our infrastructure, our water plant, wastewater plant, the electric system, and the compass system right after the storm. There's still a lot left to do with that. We have been working with FEMA, and we are assigned a group of people with FEMA who work with us. We have a manager who works with us every week. And then we have some site inspectors and a larger group of folks so that we can get on a path to get some reimbursement from FEMA. I can tell you that today we hit the send button on the first request for reimbursement of funding that we have been authorized to do with FEMA, and that is to recover the mutual aid dollars that we have paid out to the multitude of electric communities that came to help us restore our power. Now, we finished that 10 days after the storm, and you heard me say that today we were just allowed to hit the button to get those dollars back. The total of those dollars that we are requesting is $977,000. It is what we paid to other communities to help restore our electric system. There are many other projects, other things that are happening, and we're going to take action on a couple of things later tonight relative to what I'm about to say. So, Chad, you want to bring up the pictures. So, well, I know y'all love to hear my voice. I think that pictures really say what I'm trying to say and help me to explain to you. So I thought we'd just put a little walk down memory lane. And so we're getting to see some of the scenes from Catawba Meadows, and you can go to the next one, Chad, looking at some of the damage that has occurred in our park system, and you're going to see some utility damage as well. The Greenway, we were along the Greenway with a FEMA group today doing site inspection. Parts of the Greenway today still look like a beach, and we could literally, it is a completely different place than what we are used to. You're seeing River Village, some of the commercial areas, Mimosa Center. That is the boardwalk. We toured that today with FEMA as well. A couple of sites of that at River Village. And we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. You see the flooding. So if you look at that, that is our effluent area at the wastewater plant in that top left corner. And there's some other sites, and you see the water line marked inside that building. And that's just to set the stage and give you some ideas. The soccer complex, what it used to look like, and then you get to see what it looked like at the height of the flooding. And what you're looking at there is Ingalls and the soccer complex behind it. So the next one is where a lot of my, and I won't bore you with all the numbers, but I do think that the numbers are important, and I think that our community needs to understand what we're saying and what we're finding and what it has taken us really months to determine. And I'm going to start out by telling you that on our FEMA damage inventory worksheet, our total estimate to put everything back the way that it was September the 26th is $46 million. And about $5 million of that has already been spent in debris removal and emergency response. So a long time ago, and still some continuing. That doesn't, and you see there the breakdown, and I won't go through all the numbers. Electric, 3 million, wastewater, 4.5 million, water resources, about 11 million, Parks and Recreation, 22.5 million. Now, I want to talk about that 46 million because thanks to the paper and to the News Herald, talked with them the end of last week because I wanted a teaser out because people need to understand this. $46 million, that is a moving target. A lot of these projects are not, we haven't fully engaged engineering services because we're just in the process, because we have to go through the FEMA process to get to that point. We have to work with our insurance company to get to that point, and we had both traditional property and liability insurance and flood insurance on some of our properties. And none of those are resolved as of this day. You can stay there for a minute, Chad. Maybe 2 or 3, honestly. So some of these estimates are based on information we've been able to gather, conversations that we've had with our connections with professional engineers to try to understand how we are trying to define a scope of work to do this work, to complete these projects. Some of them will go through a full engineering and design process. Some of them will go through a full bidding process, all following federal and state procurement guidelines. That can take as many as 4 to 6 months before you can get to even have a bid on a project to meet all of those guidelines. When we get to bid on some of these things, what we have estimated, and I'll give you an example. So we have estimated between $11 and $12 million to put the soccer complex and Catawba Meadows back to the condition that they were beforehand. And that does not include the greenway. Those are just the parks and the amenities within the parks. When we go to bid, that might be 12.2 million. That might be 10.2 million. So I'd say 46 million is an accurate number, give or take 4 or 5 million either way. I know that seems crazy, and I'm just going to tell you, for this accountant, those are hard words to say. So many moving parts and so many unknowns. But we are working through the process, and what we're trying to do now, and Brian's going to talk to you in a few minutes specifically about Parks and Rec. But I want to talk to you about how we're doing this, and I want our community to understand that we've had to set some priorities, because $46 million is half of my annual budget, including capital, and that's for everything in the city. Actually, it's a little more than half. And what we're trying to do is $42 million worth of capital projects and figure out how to do them in a matter of 2 to 2.5 years. And it took us 50 or 60 years to build what we're trying to replace. And that's simply the story. And in order to do that, we have to have the cash. When we let a contract, we have to set aside those monies. And so we have to know that we can write the check for everybody at home. That's what we have to know. So figuring out how to cash flow this, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later too, because we have an opportunity for a cash flow loan from the state of North Carolina. Big dollars, lots of time, lots of complication to all of these projects. So what we've tried to do is create a priority list, if you will, that may also be a moving target and may move as we find out things as we go along, as we identify any other sources of money that may be available, that kind of thing. So right out of the gate, and what we're working on, Shuey Park, and Brian's going to talk a little more in detail, but in recreation we prioritized, after cleaning facilities and doing cleaning and mold remediation and that sort of thing, and basically cleaning up debris, we prioritized Shuey Park, and that is almost complete. And that is so that we can start and have a baseball and softball season for our kids. That price tag is about $500,000, and we're fronting that money now. Beanstalk Playground at Catawba Meadows, and we are getting the final quotes to be able to put that back together, so that ultimately our goal is to be able to open up large part of the greenway and the part of the parks that we can open before some of this work happens. The boardwalk at the greenway, and we're going to talk about that tonight. We have a quote for its demolition, and that is step one. Then we need to hire an engineer, we need to have it re-engineered, and then we need to go out to bid, and then we need to construct it. But that is high on our priority list, because ultimately, as you all well know, we can't open the entire greenway until we make that connection. And as we speak, River Village is now starting to open up some of that space, some of the commercial space. Some of the tenants are coming back. And the restaurant is also working to come back in the spring. The other priority there will also be our maintenance building. That's our maintenance shed at the bottom there. And, well, that's what's left of part of it. Another part of it's just not there at all. So it's basically not usable, obviously. And as we start to have to purchase equipment and replace our equipment, we're doing some of that tonight too. We've got to have a place to put it. We've got to have a place to work out of. So a new maintenance building in a different location at Catawba Meadows is one of our priorities. It's something new. So what I just told you, I believe is going to cost us $5 million. The wastewater treatment work is going on there this week and the last week that we announced that we are out of contract for the last month of the month track, and some other work happened. That work is almost going to be just over $1 million into that project. And yes, we're fronting that money also. At the water plant, the divers are coming in to take a look at our raw water intake and do some further assessment. That will be an engineering project and then a full-fledged construction project. That also includes the weir and the low weir dam that's located at the water plant as well. Those things together are the raw water intake and the weir. We're guesstimating that's another $11 million. $11 million seems to be a popular number with us. We're working through some insurance on some of that too. So those projects are just a little bit down the road because we're having to do more work on those. We've spent close to $500,000 in response to our pump stations and lift stations in our water and sewer systems. There's more work to be done there, and I'm not talking about Silver Creek. That's an animal all by itself. Week before last, we just found and discovered a new large washout that happened at one of our sewer lines, and it was storm related, and the repair for that is $80,000. And we did not know that that existed until 2 weeks ago. So that number is climbing. The Silver Creek lift station, which we were already working on, we feel like about $1 million, $1.2 million will probably get that completed and allow us to do some things to make it more water resilient in the future. Last but not least, we're saving Catawba Meadows soccer, the Rocky Ford end of the Greenway, which, as you see in that third picture right there, and then the Low Weir Dam. And those will be kind of the last projects. And by last, I don't mean 10 years from now. I just mean we're going to get started on those a few months from now. It takes a lot to put them together. You can go on to the other pictures now, Chad. So just some pictures of what everybody has been doing, and all of my coworkers and folks that have done incredible work since September the 27th. And just thought we might need to be reminded about that. I've talked to you a lot tonight about our need to spend almost $50 million putting our things back together and getting our facilities functioning in a way that our community is used to, in a way that our region is used to, in a way that lots of out-of-town folks, all of those travel and tourism folks that come here to enjoy what we have, enjoy the national parks, enjoy the state parks and all of that. What I haven't talked to you a lot about is lost revenues. And that is another category that we are wrestling with. And that is everything from permit fees, general economics, cancellations that happened the first few weeks after the storm, tax valuation. We do not know yet. We are waiting on the county to give us what they estimate that our tax valuation is going to go down based on what's happened to our property. Inside the city limits to everybody's personal property. Businesses that have not reopened yet, that are normally a part of our economy, and industry here that isn't working at 100%. We still have 2 very large industrial customers that are working at less than 100% because they're still recovering from damage from the storm. We have some that aren't reopening at all. We have some commercial space not reopening at all, and we have other commercial space that working very hard to have a place to go to get back open. Western North Carolina, because this is bigger than us, so I'm very concerned about what happens in Western North Carolina, because in the state of North Carolina, sales tax that is generated in the state all gets shared. There's a portion of it that gets shared with all of us. So everyone's downed economy because of this in Western North Carolina affects everybody in North Carolina. Those visitors that we're used to having come here to use all the great facilities, to use all that God blessed us with in Western North Carolina, it's not happening. And there's a lot of struggle with how that's going to get back. And that also affects our economy. We are probably running, and it varies, but we are probably running somewhere between electric, water, sewer, and one other cost. Cable, not as much, honestly. I mean, the phone, internet, and all that. Water, sewer, and electric, it's running probably somewhere, and it depends weather, different things, between $300,000 and $500,000 a month in revenue that we normally get that we're not getting. Because our customer base has changed and they're trying to rebuild also. So the numbers are big. Yes, they do keep me up at night. Managing it all and figuring out how to pay for it all in a short period of time and how to get it back because we want it back. And just like we heard, the Greenway is important to a lot of people. You know, if your kid was going to get to play t-ball this year, and we've had to limit the numbers because of our facility challenges, that's hard for you. If you're, you know, someone that wants to use another facility that we have and you can't right now, it's hard. And it's very heartbreaking to deny our community what we are very used to providing in a very over-the-top, fantastic manner. But we're working on it. I think we need to ask everyone to still continue to have some patience. You're getting ready to hear from Brian about what we think is some good news with Parks and Recreation. And I would ask him to come up and talk about some of the facilities that we're gonna, and Janelle puts up, so you've heard me say this before, and I'm gonna try not to cry because I cried when I went to the soccer complex today with FEMA. It is still very hard to even look at. My first trip to the Greenway, when you couldn't see the Greenway after the storm, one of our employees was taking me out there, and I was just, I don't know what to say. I don't know how we'll get this done. And he just turned and said, "Don't worry, Miss Sandy, we'll build it back even better." And I think that's what we're aiming for. It's just going to take us a little while.